Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of The World of Gaming, your number one podcast where we discuss everything the world of gaming has to offer, games, news, and technology. And as usual, we go through the highlights of the week. And as always, I want to put out a reminder in the beginning that this show is also now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the good stuff. So if you want to listen there, enjoy it over there, and please consider to give me a 5-star rating either on Spotify or Apple Podcast. That would be really awesome. And for those who do listen audio only, I always recommend to also check the show out here on YouTube because we have an awesome live chat and I already see a lot of familiar faces. Welcome to you guys, but now let me also welcome today's guest, Ainsly Bowden from Season Gaming. He's the host of the Bitcast and the co-host of the Cast Co-op podcast, CEO and founder of the website that does not rely on sponsorships or clickbait stuff. One hell of a passionate gamer, and I always have to mention your dedicated gaming basement because that is just super impressive. So welcome to today's show. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it, man. We've I've known you since you first got into this and had you on Bitcast many times, and I'm looking forward to being on here with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking time. I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate you hanging here out with us today. And we're gonna have a fun show. In case you don't know Ainsley and what he does, I have all his links in the description of the show notes. So just click in there. You will find Season Gaming, which I highly recommend. The YouTube channel, Twitter, everything.
Thank you.
All right. And in terms of topics, we are packed this week. Actually, the week started slow, and I thought, like, man, will we have enough to talk for the show? But we have something to talk. We will talk about Starfield. There have been official news from a dev diary, but there have also been some leaks over there on Reset Era. We will talk about those. We will talk about the ID at Xbox event. We will talk about the initiative and what is going on with the turnovers there. We are talking about third-party gaming events this year. There have been some updates. We will talk about console sales numbers, some Goldeneye news dropped today, and a lot more. So before we discuss all these news, I always want to start this show with a little bit of talk about the games that we actually play. So, Ainsley, before I want to hear from you what you have been playing, I want to briefly mention that GTA 5 came out this week again on the third generation. Have you tried this?
No, not the new one. I mean, I played it on 360 when it released, of course, and then I bought it again for the Xbox One, and I swear it's still sitting sealed on my shelf. Like I bought it like 6 years ago. It's still in the plastic. And then I considered buying this one just because it's a cheaper upgrade, and giving it a go again. But honestly, I'm so tied up with other games right now. I know I wouldn't have time to play it, so I haven't bothered.
Yeah, can totally understand. I'm not buying it either again. I've also bought it twice and had 2 playthroughs, so that's enough. So what have you been playing?
Oh man, well, yeah. Anyone who follows me knows that Elden Ring pretty much took over my life.
Let's put up some footage here. There we go.
I reviewed it. I was very fortunate enough to review it, and I put over 80 hours into it for the review on PC. Then when I got my Xbox code, I went out and started Xbox. I started one character for like another 40 hours. Then I was like, I don't like this. Started another character. I'm at 70 some hours on that. And then I'm doing a live playthrough on Twitch of the whole game as well. And I think I've got another 40 plus hours in that. So I'm over 200 hours into Elden Ring, played through the game twice. It is just, it's one of my favorite games of all time, hands down. I absolutely adore it. So that has pretty much been taken over, sadly, because that took over my life. There's a few other games that I've been wanting to check out that I'm big on and just have been kind of behind. So I started Horizon Forbidden West recently.
Oh, nice.
And I'm trying to get into that. I'm about 10 hours in, little slow start, but I'm getting there. I'm waiting for it to grab me. And then, of course, we've talked offline, of course. I'm a car guy,
Yeah.
and started playing Gran Turismo 7 as well. So I'm putting a
Oh,
little time into
how
that.
is it?
It's pretty good. It's very much a classic Gran Turismo experience, meaning
Mhm.
it wants to tell you everything about every car, why they're designed that way, starting with the basics and ramping up and doing your license tests and all this stuff. So it's, if you just want to get in and race like top cars, it's not the game for you. That's
Mm.
not what it does. I think Forza does a better job there and in other aspects as well. But it is Gran Turismo. The physics and the racing itself are very good. It's very detailed, and I'm enjoying it. I need to put a little more time into it, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay, nice, nice. What do you say about the microtransaction controversy that came up today?
Yeah,
Have you seen this?
I
For
have.
those who
Yeah,
don't know, probably just a short summary. They basically that there have been complaints about expensive prices of microtransactions in that game, and so they basically increased the in-game currency that you need for cars. So it makes it even harder for you to get the credits to in-game to buy the cars. So what do you think about this?
yeah. It's messy. I'm really careful, as you know, about
Yeah.
kind of commenting on things I can't speak from experience or knowledge, right? So I can tell you that earning credits in the game seems pretty slow, at least so far.
Hmm.
And the cars are about as expensive as you would expect, like a nice high-end car, 3, 4, $500,000 or credits, 500,000 credits. And it can take a while to earn that. So I think the controversy is really that it's the rate of earning in the game is slow, but you can buy credits with real money, right? And it's
Hmm.
like, why would you have that in a $70 or in the US $70 game, a full price game? So yeah, I can definitely see the problem there if it's as bad as some people are saying. I don't think I'm far enough to experience that yet, but yeah,
Okay.
that could be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I've also been playing Elden Ring a lot lately. I'm now, 35 hours or so
Is it
into
is
the
it
game.
grabbing you? Kind of.
I have a love-hate relationship with the game. There are so many things that the game does really well, but then there are some things that it really does not well, in my opinion. And so I would say at this point, again, 35 hours into it, my character is now level 50 something.
Sure.
I just beat that lady in the academy,
Renala. Yeah.
Renala. Yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm at in the game, and right now I would say it's a good game. It's not a masterpiece. Um,
Okay.
there are a couple of things that, yeah, I have to be careful with what I say, because I realized when I put out the slightest critique on Twitter, I have received a shitstorm in my DMs I have never experienced before. Really, if you think the console warriors are toxic, the from software defense force is worse than anything I've experienced. So I have to be careful with what I say about Elden Ring. I like it. It's not the big masterpiece that that everyone makes it out to be. I think there are a couple of flaws that, yeah, just take away a little bit of the fun for me.
Okay.
It's smaller things like quality of life things, like a missing pause button, but that really annoys me.
Okay.
Because when my kids walk in the room, I can't pause and I die again and again and again. And it is just smaller things like that, or the item descriptions. I don't know who had the idea, but there are so many item descriptions just not telling you what certain items do. And I know people defend this as, yeah, that's the charm of the game to find it out. For me, it means I spend more time on Google than I want to. And yeah, I don't know. So there are a couple of things, and I think my biggest issue with it is, and I don't know if you would agree here, probably not, because I know how much you like it,
Yeah.
but the difficulty is not the issue of the game. The issue with the difficulty and approachability is that the game is sometimes simply unfair to you. And I really like challenging games. I don't know, for instance, if you have played Hollow Knight.
Yes, I have.
Two very different games. I know it's you can't compare them, but
Yeah.
I died hundreds of times in Hollow Knight, but I did not have once the feeling that when I died, it wasn't my fault. And I have that constantly in Elden Ring. I just die without any warning. You walk around the corner and there's an enemy standing there smacking you in the face and you're dead. And stuff like that. Or sometimes any boss fights, I win them, but I don't have the feeling that I win them because I was good at the game. I just got lucky, and that is something I don't think a difficult game should do. But yeah, I know there are different opinions about this. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about some of the FromSoft fans. They get a little bit over defensive. Yeah, so that's certainly true. And I'm talking to tons of people. As I said, I just because I reviewed it and I've played so much of it, I'm being looked at, and I wrote a guide for it. I'm being looked at as one of those,
which is really helpful, especially when you start the game, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. That was the whole point, right? It's like I'm very much someone who likes to experience games like this from a purity standpoint. And what I mean by that is when I played it, both of my playthroughs, I didn't use anything that showed me where to go, no YouTube tutorials, nothing. I just explored and did it myself. And so I wanted to create a guide that didn't really have any spoilers. It just kind of told you basic mechanics, concepts, etc. Anyway, but I think a lot of people are coming to me about this game, and I've had tons of conversations. And there's people just like you, of course, who really like the game, but they don't hold it on that really high pedestal. And so I've had a bunch of debates about that. I know Luke over at Xbox Expansion Pass, like he's got like 80 hours in it. He loves it, but he complains about it quite a bit. And that's okay, you know. I think I'm in the camp of, you know, no game is perfect. There's obvious things that could be better here and there in the game. I don't agree with some of the criticisms. I agree with others, but yeah, just for me, it really took me back to a type of game where it's this masterful open world with ridiculous amount of things. Like I kept telling people, even once you're 50, 60 hours in, you still haven't come anywhere close to seeing the breadth of this game. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the ways it does that when you look at the world map is the world map expands, not just the fragments you find, but the actual square where the map is expands and expands and expands, and it gets bigger and bigger. And so I think it does this open world design incredibly well, and it allows the player kind of you know, a sense of discovery and exploration and kind of mystery that so many games don't. It was you've played Forbidden West quite a bit too, right?
Yeah, I finished it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my problem is I got Forbidden West, but I got the Elden Ring code like a couple days before Forbidden West came out. And so as excited as I was for Forbidden West, I couldn't play it. I was not stuck, but I was reviewing Elden Ring. And so by the time I've gotten to Forbidden West now, I have over 200 hours in Elden Ring, like I said. And Forbidden West is pretty much the polar opposite in terms of game design from a accessibility standpoint. It has like a 10-hour tutorial section.
Yeah,
it holds your hand.
It really holds your hand, and you have the question marks on the map and everything.
Aloy never stops talking and telling you what to do, and like it's actually annoying me. It's like I'm playing it, and I'm like, can you please be quiet and just let me play the game? And you can't turn that off either. You can't do anything about her speech or her direction. It's part of the game. And so it's this weird dichotomy of just, I think it's player preference, right? Either you really like kind of the guided open world experience, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Or I tend to say old school because it's more like the games I grew up with, and I'm old. Elden Ring is just like it throws you into the world and says, figure it out.
And I think this is something that the game does really well. That the way how they built the open world, you can really tell. After like 10, 15 hours, I learned to read the world. So you start to see, okay, might be an interesting path, but the game really doesn't tell you properly. But you still kind of feel like, okay, there could be something over there or there. And the way how they set up this world and how you discover certain things is something that is really well done.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about it. And you know, there's a lot of customization too. There's, you know, I think in my inventory on my late game now, I have like over 100 weapons. There's different builds you can do with damn near all of them, right? There's just a lot of different ways to play this game. And I won't take up any more time on it. I just love it to death. There's a lot I could go on, but I do completely agree that it's not perfect. And some of the FromSoft fans need to calm down. Okay. Like it's okay. It's okay to have some criticisms about the game and still love it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I did something I usually never do, and that is not reply to DMs because I got 120 DMs on one single tweet where I said I had a love-hate relationship, and I read
Wow.
that tweet like 20 times, and I couldn't read anything really negative into this tweet. And from
I
those,
saw I saw your tweet. I read it and moved on. Like I didn't think
yeah,
you said anything terrible.
yeah, and I had like from these 120, I had like 20 positive ones where people just recommended me a certain tutorial or a video or
Sure.
gave advice, which I really appreciate. But then the other hundreds were like stuff you would just
Oh
don't want to read.
God.
So I just delete.
Yeah.
It was insane. I've never experienced something like this. Yeah, but let's move on from Elden Ring. It is a great game, and I'm definitely going to continue this. I have also been playing Shredders today. I
Oh,
started
nice.
that, played more like 1.5, 2 hours today.
Oh,
So,
is
but
it?
I think we will discuss this a little bit later when we talk about the ID at Xbox event.
Okay.
And when we and before we move to the news, I want to say thank you to Drawn to J, who sends in the first super chat of the day, and he says, "Hey guys, what's up, Boxenberger? What's up, Drawn to J? Dude, we need to play H4 again. Last weekend we played H4 a match, and it was awesome. We have to do this again.
Talk about Halo 4?
Age of Empires 4.
Oh, Age 4. I thought you said H4.
No,
You know me. I'm a Halo guy.
Age
You know
of
me.
Empires
Yeah,
4.
I turn everything into Halo.
My most played game of 2021. I have, like, my Steam account says I have 220 hours now into the game. It's ridiculous.
I remember you saying you loved it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it is. It is an awesome game. I still play it twice a week. It's fantastic.
Great.
But yeah, so I really hope it comes to consoles because more people need to play this.
Sure.
It is fantastic. All right, Ains, let's move to the news. All right. So there have been quite some news this week, and I want to start with the Starfield news. Have you seen that dev diary that they uploaded yesterday?
I
So
did.
before we talk about some of the things they said in this one, where's your hype level for Starfield?
This has been a weird discussion lately with people, hasn't it? Because it's like
Yeah.
some people are super hyped, and then other people are like, "Why are you hyped?" And it's like you need to define your hype. But I'm kind of like above average, but not over the moon, if that makes sense. I love what I would call the proper Bethesda game studio titles, which is the huge open world RPGs, right? Skyrim, fantastic. Morrowind, one of my favorites of all time. Again, going back to the throw you in the world and do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, that was a different one.
Yes, very different. Oblivion, I really enjoyed, and it was a technical marvel at the time of release. But there's some criticisms I had of Oblivion. But regardless, I really love the proper Bethesda big open world RPG, and I think a lot of people keep saying we haven't seen a lot of gameplay, and that's fair. But it's also fair too to understand the talent of this team, the expectations for it, and of course, knowing that this game was kind of so big and has so much potential. We know of the history of PlayStation trying to secure timed exclusivity for this game. Xbox, of course, doing the Bethesda deal and getting full exclusivity. So obviously, there's a reason why this game is being sought after by the publishers in the industry, right? And I think it's going to be excellent. My biggest hope, of course, as with any huge game from Bethesda like this, is that I just hope it launches in a good state and we don't get a buggy release. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the rumors have been out there that the game was more or less done end of last year.
Yes.
So that they had basically 1 year just to polish the entire game up. But on the other hand, if you remember any of the previous Bethesda big open world games and the state they released in, we shall see.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for them. The Elder Scrolls series is probably my favorite game series of all time, along with the Arkham series. I really love Elder Scrolls. Like you said, Morrowind, that was an amazing experience. I played hundreds of hours of that game on the actually OG Xbox.
Me too.
Yeah. And Oblivion, fantastic, and Skyrim. I don't know how many times I bought Skyrim. I bought it on everything I have. And I even have like more than 100 hours on Skyrim on the Switch version.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm really a fan of that. And so when Todd Howard said this is basically Skyrim in space, and that they have been dreaming of making this game for more than 15 years now, that is something that just gave me goosebumps, and I
No
can't
doubt.
wait. Yeah. So yesterday they talked a bit about what they wanted to build with that universe. They said stuff like, and I just quote a couple of things that they said in the dev interview now. The universe should feel like you actually live in and not just play it in that universe. Yeah, the tech that they will be using is based on photogrammetry, and they have a complete new technology for scanning new persons and characters. That's something cool. They have different factions, and you can actually start with different factions on different planets. There will be different pirates that you can side with or not. They will have companions in the game, which is a first for Elders or for Bethesda game. And we saw probably the first glimpse of in-game footage, which was that little robot dude, that companion. And they said that they completely reworked their dialogue system, where they have something new in order for you to be able to persuade other NPCs that they feel more like actual human beings that you talk to. So yeah, what do you make of this?
They're saying all the right things.
A little bit the
Yeah, they're saying all the right things, right? Which is what you expect them to do. I really liked, you mentioned the engine there and the kind of the technology they're using. And for those who may be unaware, this is the first major upgrade to their game creation engine since Oblivion, which was 2005 or 6. But so it's been a long time coming, and I think one of the biggest criticisms, despite the launch issues of Fallout 76, is that the engine and the game kind of felt dated, right, in the way it looked and felt.
Yeah.
And I think this is very promising that this is going to be a next or current gen now and PC game only on this new engine. So there's a lot of promise from the technical side. I love the
technical
comment.
Sorry for jumping in here really quick, because the technical director actually spoke in a previous dev diary a little bit about what they actually changed in the engine. They completely changed the physics system. They used to use the Havoc physics engine, and they are not using that anymore. It's going to be a self-made physics engine. They have completely revamped the rendering pipeline. They threw all these shading technologies that are more than 15 years old now, and actually came from the Quake games. Yeah, they threw that out, and they have a complete new system for textures that is kind of a little bit similar to what Unreal 5 is doing with Nanite. So yeah, there's really a complete overhaul of all the technical things. Yeah,
it's really promising. So and then from a game design standpoint, the biggest thing they talked about, this isn't going to shock you again, but the biggest thing they talked about that got me excited was just freedom of discovery. You feeling like you live in the world. Some of my favorite open world games, whether it be Elden Ring, Witcher 3, Red Dead 2, right? When you're engrossed in those games, you feel like you're in that world. And the best open world games do that, in my opinion. And if that's what Todd Howard is talking about here, and they can really produce that, and you feel like you're in a space simulator and you can go to different planets and just explore and meet new people and do things dynamically, right? You're not scripted to go here to here to here. You can just do it at free will. Then this game's going to land really, really high for me, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the beauty of video games. Yeah, that you are actually part of the story, and you, to some degree, you've shaped the story. And if a game can achieve that you have that feeling that you actually influence the story, the world, your character, whatever. That is the difference in between a movie that you watch or a book you read. Yeah, because you actually take part in this. And it sounds like they have something cool coming there. There has also been, alongside with this a leak from a user named Liquor. So, of course, we should always take these kind of things with a grain of salt, but apparently a lot of known insiders trust this guy. So, yeah, he has actually spoiled a lot, also along with the story, some story pieces. I will leave those out here. I won't spoil anything story or lore related. We will find that out in the way that Bethesda intends to. But he talked about one thing that I find really interesting, and he says that, of course, you can go out in space, and gravity is actually a big and important mechanic in Starfield. So the way how they handle gravity on different planets, asteroids, or space station is apparently a core mechanic of the game. You will be able to have different kind of ships for exploration, cargo, combat. So there is actually space stuff going on. I love it. They will apparently also have colony building. So the mechanic from Fallout 4 is basically coming back, but apparently a lot of improvements have been made to that. And procedural generation technology has been significantly enhanced, and according to him, you won't be able to tell the difference in between procedural generated content that basically bridges the bigger cities on the planets, and the actually handcrafted stuff. So, what do you think of these things if this comes?
Yeah. So
should it be true?
yeah, let's assume these are true, right?
Yeah.
Procedural generation piece is interesting. I will say we've heard many times of games that'll have procedural generation that'll look and feel like the rest of the game. So if that, we'll see. That'll be proved upon the game's release. I hope it's true, of course.
Mhm.
The building aspect from Fallout 4, the only thing I would say there, I know it was weird because I don't know about you, but Fallout 4, that was one of the things I liked least about Fallout 4.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like I have no interest in building
Yeah.
camps, towns, and whatnot. No
Yeah,
Man's Sky
not
was
in
the
an
same thing.
RPG. I want to build my character. I want to build, my stats,
Yes.
but not a
Yeah.
base or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So
Yeah.
the idea of the ships and being able to buy different ships and cargo and NPCs, that's awesome. Let's do that. Base building, no, not so much. But I do know other people who spent tens and tens of hours building it, right? So
Yeah.
if that's the case, then I hope that works as intended. But yeah, I mean, as long as the base building is not required in any sense, then I'm good. The rest of what we're saying here in terms of the ships, the character building, procedural generation, the NPC, it all sounds excellent.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think we will see that game soon at E3. There's no doubt, or whatever the June showcase will be. And there he is gone. So, Ainsley had a few technical issues up front. There he is again.
Yeah, sorry, I
You're
saw
back.
my camera had frozen.
Yeah.
Didn't realize, and so I hit refresh and it kicked me out of the show. I'm sorry.
No problem. I've been there, man. I've been there with technical issues during live podcasts.
Good God.
It just happens. I just wanted to use that little break here to read two super chats that came in, both actually from John TJ. The first, he says, "Yeah, let's play H4." Yeah, we will do that, man. Let's talk in the DMs and make a date. And the other one also comes in and he asks, I got to ask, when do you think Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out? And do you think we see State of Decay 3 this E3 with Forza also? Let's talk about Elder Scrolls 6 first. If you would have asked me that a month ago, I would have said, not before 27. If we get Starfield this year, they need another 5 years to make Elder Scrolls. But Todd Howard recently had a very interesting interview, and he said something that stuck with me. And he said that they can spend years in prototyping a game, but when they actually start to build out a game, they only need 1 to max 2 years to finish the game. I find that super fast. Did not expect that, but that's what Todd Howard said. And so we know that they have been working on prototypes and ideas for Elder Scrolls for a while now. And if they move over to full production after Starfield, I could see that game come out in 2 years. So 24, maybe 25. What do you think, Ains?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a few years yet. And there's obviously, when you're talking about prototyping, you're talking about engine development, there's parallels and crossovers when you're building other games. So I'm sure there's a lot of work they've put into Starfield that will also obviously go into Elder Scrolls 6. So really, there's going to be a lot of crossover there. I definitely think we'll probably see it late this generation or kind of on the tail end of whenever these next platforms come out. So yeah, I would say probably 25 would be when they should probably see it.
Probably. It's crazy if you think about the success of Skyrim that they take so long to make a successor. It's crazy.
Yeah, 14 years if it's 25, right? Wasn't Skyrim 2011, which is nuts.
It's nuts. Yeah.
It's like Grand Theft Auto 6, same thing.
True. Crazy time schedules they have. What do you think about State of Decay 3 and Forza at E3 this year?
Forza, I can definitely see. In fact, I can see Forza releasing later this year.
I would be surprised if it's not, to be honest.
Yeah, when I reviewed Forza Horizon 5, and I was fortunate to get into a developer play session where I then met someone who was part of a test group for Forza. Mm-hmm. So they play everything ahead of time. And obviously, he can't share a lot of details, but he did tell me he's already played Forza Motorsport. He talked about kind of these new physics engines with tire modeling and weather modeling and these things. And, the little bit that he did share with me was very impressive. So I have to imagine and remember, that was back in October. So if people are already playing it late last year, I definitely think we're going to see Forza at E3 or whatever Xbox show we get. It may release later this year. If it doesn't, I could see it early next year, but I don't think it's super far away. State of Decay 3 is an interesting one because I truly believe that they are going to spend more time on development here with State of Decay 3 to really bring it up to what we would consider a AAA experience, right? So I think that it's just a guess. I don't have any information on State of Decay 3, but my guess would be that they're going to take a little more time on this. That one will probably be a little further out, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's been 4 years now in 2018 since they released State of Decay 2, but they have been really supporting State of Decay 2. There's barely a game out there that got so many updates, and not just content-wise. They also revamped everything from animation to texture work to a couple of engine stuff. This is really impressive how they have supported that game. I would also have guessed the same, that it's probably a little bit further out, but then we had that Phil Spencer comment recently on the Xbox Era podcast, where he particularly mentioned, along with Starfield, State of Decay 3 as one of his most anticipated games. So, who knows? Maybe we get a surprise announcement for early 2023 or something. We shall see. Man, let's move over while we are on Xbox. Let me just take a brief note for the YouTube timestamps later. We can move on to ID at Xbox. They had a showcase yesterday on Twitch. Did you watch that by any chance?
I've only caught a piece of it so far. It's one of those things I need to catch up on. So midweek for me, midday is tough. So
I was like last year. Did you see that thing last year?
I try to forget it.
Yeah. So I didn't watch it live. I went to the movies yesterday instead. So I watched the new Batman, and that was probably the better choice. the thing is, I of course skipped through it earlier, and I watched some of the highlights and some of the trailers, because what I do like is to see some great indie games. I love what they do with the ID at Xbox program, and some of the best gaming experiences of 2021 were indie games for me. So like a Death's Door or The Ascent or Song of Iron. I love these games. So of course I wanted to see what they had announced, but I didn't want to hear that that those Twitch girls talk about stuff for 20 minutes to see a 2-minute trailer. I tried to pick out some of the big highlights. The first two things are, of course, the announcement that Tunic came out and immediately dropped into Game Pass, which is great. I already downloaded it. And the same goes, of course, for Shredders. That game also came out, and maybe I just briefly switch over to some Shredders gameplay because I played it earlier. Are you interested in any of these games?
Yeah. So I started playing Tunic last night. I played a little bit this morning when I got up. Only maybe 45 minutes or so, briefly.
Okay, I don't know what's happening now. Something weird is happening. Let me remove that real quick. That's weird. Okay, let me.
They're messing with us today.
Try once more. Okay, there we go.
Okay. So Tunic's pretty cool so far. I know it got rated very well. So I'm looking forward to put more time into that. Shredders I'm interested in. I know Luke was over at Xbox Expansion Pass was playing that for a review ahead of time. And he said, it's fun, but it's a little rough around the edges. So I love these snowboarding type games. They can be really fun, but I haven't tried it yet, but I want to. Trek to Yomi is one I'm really interested in.
Oh,
the 2D martial art kind of black and white one. I thought that looked really cool too.
That looked cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And then there's another one from oh gosh, I'm gonna forget the developer's name now, but the Flintlock, the Siege of Dawn. The
Flintlock, they made
A44.
Yeah. They made Ashen.
Yes,
the makers of Ashen. Yes.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Ashen. I'm a Souls guy, right? So I really enjoyed Ashen, which is what it's one of those games. And I did a full playthrough of that, and this is like an open world action RPG. So it looks a lot more ambitious than Ashen, but obviously if it's well developed, it should be really good. So quite a few little interesting games here.
Yeah, for me it was also Vault Breakers. It's this twin stick shooter type of game that really looked cool. Then Sam and Max Save the World get a remaster. I don't know whether you have ever played that.
I haven't played it. No.
If you enjoy Psychonauts, I recommend this one too. It has a great sense of humor as well, and that's a cool one. Lightyear Frontier reminded me a little bit of the Gunk. It had this calm feeling to it. So there were quite a few interesting looking ones, and the one, of course, that you see me here try to play is Shredders. I would fully agree here with Luke. It is a little rough around the edges. I played for 1.5 or 2 hours maybe, and this is some of the very early footage because the game is actually quite difficult to handle, or at least in my brain, because you basically steer with the left stick, and then you have you have to do the combinations with the right stick and in combination with the bumpers, and this is it takes time to get used to it, how to do certain tricks and flips and stuff.
I gotcha.
But it is a fun game overall. But like a little rough around the edges. I'm still gonna play more.
I keep watching this. Oh, and it's just cracking me up.
Yeah, you have to jump through the. Oh, that's actually the task of this challenge, and it took me forever to get that right. But I will eventually get it. Yeah, it's kind of. the way how this game works is a little bit reminded me of Forza Horizon, in the sense of you have this big open world, and then you just go to certain events and you can start them from there, and that's kind of
Okay,
cool.
that is cool.
Yeah, and then you have different challenges, like this one here, jump through the O. So now I did it, and yeah, or you have races, or you have stunt tricks to do, and yeah, it's a fun game. Definitely recommend to check it out, since it's in Game Pass. It doesn't hurt. There was one thing that was really interesting at the Xbox event, and that was an interview with Sarah Bond. She came on.
Okay.
And she said a couple of things, of course, about the importance of indie games and stuff like that. But she also mentioned something about their new efforts for the ID at Xbox program, that it's going to be way easier for indie devs to get help from the ID at Xbox team. And that was kind of new to me. I didn't know that Xbox now gives out 2 dev kits to indie developers. You can, whenever you make a game, you can apply there, and if the game fulfills certain basic standards like non-discriminational stuff or whatever, you actually get 2 dev kits. And a team or a contact person at ID at Xbox that will help you to use the GDK of Xbox. And I found that really interesting, because I bet that this costs them a lot of money, and I don't know whether they can recoup that with every ID at Xbox game, but that is definitely something interesting. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think there's game development has never been broader, right? There's more people developing games than there ever have been, and that's continuing to grow, especially in new markets, right? So if you look at the growth of game development and the sheer number of either studios or kind of developer count across places like South Korea and China and, a bunch of different other nations, it's really interesting. So I think that as much as the big publishers, whether it be Xbox, PlayStation, I have no idea how Nintendo handles this stuff. I don't think they do. But you know what I mean? Like, some of the PC companies, Epic, whoever it may be, the more that they can support new developers, young developers, small developers, the more we, sure, there's going to be some loss. There's going to be some sunk cost there, right? That you're not going to recoup.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got to find some gems once in a while. Like one I always refer to is Salt and Sanctuary, which is a cool little 2D RPG. Really, did really extremely well. It was made by a couple, a husband and a wife, their first game. And now they have their sequel coming out later this year. And, I think there's instances like that you need to point to say, like, look, Tunic was made by one guy. You know
one
what I
guy,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So
last year we had Song of Iron, also a great game that I really enjoyed. One guy.
Exactly. So the more you can kind of support that as a bigger company, I mean, let's be honest, Microsoft's not hurting for cash. If you can support development and once in a while it results in something really cool coming to your platform, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I agree fully there. So I hope that they continue to put the effort into the ID at Xbox program. I do hope that they change the way how they present these ID at Xbox showcases, make it more streamlined, and remove the Twitch thing from it. Other than that, I do hope that they will continue to highlight the indie games as well.
Yeah. I don't see why I think most of us agree that their E3 or summer, whatever you want to call it, presentation last year was phenomenal. Like, it was
yes, absolutely.
I don't know why for the ID at Xbox ones they don't do something more like a direct or a state of play, where it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, trailers, a few quips here and there, and just make it efficient. I don't know why we need this 2 hour with talking and all this stuff. It's just, it doesn't catch people.
Yeah, I agree. And I have not seen anyone say something positive about the way how they present it. Everyone says, I love the games, and I've liked this one looked interesting, whatever. But no one says, hey, this is a great showcase how they put it together. Yeah, so I don't know. We shall see if they change that in the future. I want to bring up another Xbox related topic as well, and that was something. Yeah, the clickbait sites made this out probably bigger than it is, but it's about the initiative. Have you seen
Yeah.
that story?
Yeah.
Just to bring everyone up to speed, according to two different reports, half of the core development team have quit in the past year. That includes most of the initiative's senior design team, including the game director, Dan Newburger, the design director, Drew Murray, the lead level designer, Chris O'Neill, the principal world builder, Jolion Myers or so, multiple system designers, three former God of War designers left the studio, and many, many more. So yeah, clickbait sites made articles. The initiative is doomed, and Perfect Dark is in development hell, and others had a little bit more reasonable approach to this. Xbox fans, of course, defended this immediately. What do you think is really going on over there, and what is happening?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, any situation like this, it's going to just be pure speculation, right? That's what we're dealing with because none of us truly know. I My opinion is just, having covered this industry for a very long time now and stuff, when you see things like this, like we often see big names depart studios, and that's pretty standard for certain things. In this case, it definitely seems a bit more extreme, right? And it definitely seems strange with the whole Crystal Dynamics aspect to it, right? Like we don't truly know. You don't typically you don't develop a studio, hire all top tier talent, and then bring in an existing studio to build a game. That's just very odd. So it's really strange that this is going on. I think I would add the caveat of, look, at the end of the day, all of us are speculating. We don't know what's going on, and we have no idea how Perfect Dark's going to turn out, good or bad. Obviously, many of us, or I would say most of us, want Perfect Dark to be amazing. It still could. There's nothing stopping it from still being amazing.
Yes.
But there is definitely a feeling of where there's smoke, there's fire here. That so much top tier talent have decided to leave that studio. If you know as well as I do from kind of corporate experience, that to attract top tier talent and to recruit them and train them and onboard them, it's not cheap. You spend a lot of money and time doing this. And for the people who are trying to be overly defensive about this, I promise you, the plan was not to hire all these people and get rid of them a year later or 2 years later. That's not the plan. So something is definitely amiss. What that means at the end of the day for Perfect Dark, time will tell. That's all I can really say.
That's very true, and I think we should keep that in mind. I'm with you. It's not normal for a studio to have a turnover rate of 50% in 1 year. That's not normal for any industry. Actually, I was on a management training a couple of years ago, and I remembered something when I read this headline. The industry with the highest turnover rate is apparently the logistics industry. Because truck drivers and stuff, they change jobs frequently, and they have a turnover rate of 20 to 25%, depending on the region in the world. So 50% in 1 year definitely isn't normal. But I have a theory, and that there are actually two things going on. Because the first thing is they have been very open about the idea of the initiative, and they always said they want to stay small and agile, and that they then want to hire, that they are basically making concepts and prototypes for a game idea, and then they hire contractors and stuff out. They hire contractors and people to build the rest of the game out. We know that now that this has been done with, of course, Crystal Dynamics. They came on board. They have probably also a couple of other contractors working on the game as well. And here's the thing: if you are a highly talented game developer with a great resume and want to be a creative person, you don't want to be the guy who manages other studios and other contractors. And that's what it comes down to. If you have a very small studio and then you hire a big team outside, someone has to manage them. And I'm not sure. This is just me speculating. Like you said, we know nothing, but I could see this happening. And the other thing is, when you look at that list of talent that they hired, those are all alpha dogs. And if it's anything remotely to what my company is like that I work for, if you have like 10 alpha dogs in the room, 9 have to go, because in the end only one alpha dog will be in the room. And if you hire all these lead designers from God of War, from Rockstar, from Rocksteady, from Insomniac, and so on, you will run eventually in the question into personal conflicts. Who runs the show? So yeah, I'm there could be multiple reasons as to why these people leave. Does this mean that Perfect Dark is in danger? Not necessarily. Crystal is a very talented studio. They have done an amazing job with the Tomb Raider franchise. They have done, well, not the best job, of course, with the Avengers, but also not the worst job. This game wasn't that bad. It's more like they handled the end game content. But yeah, so
I think sorry to jump in. I was going to say, I think
sure.
your point about kind of the alpha stuff is relevant here too. Is that
Yeah.
there are, one of the things that kind of comes up a lot of times in the gaming discourse or community is this company just bought or hired X, Y, and Z. Their next game is going to be incredible. And it's like, well, that's not always true, right? Like, I always do the analogy of a sports team, right? It's like a sports team can go out and spend unlimited cash on the best players in the league and throw them all on a team. And sometimes that works great and they win a championship. Other times the team falls apart and they're terrible. There's a level of team commitment and synergy and all these things that go into creating a good development team, just like a sports team or any other job team, that you're in. And so this could just be a situation, to your point, where, they were quick about getting talent. But when they put them all in a room to work together, it was oil and water, that can certainly happen.
Yeah.
So again, we don't know, but that could be a situation that occurred as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's hope that we will see the game this year. There have been these rumors that it will be shown at the E3 event, and would be cool to see what Perfect Dark actually will be. And moving on from Perfect Dark, let's go back in time a little bit. Did you play the original Perfect Dark?
Perfect Dark, of course, yeah.
Yeah, did you play Goldeneye? Yeah, me too.
Goldeneye, still have my original copy as well.
Awesome. There have been a couple of news about Goldeneye this week as well. So let me briefly pull up my notes here to get this right. Goldeneye, the software trademark, has been renewed by Dunjak LLC. That's the holding company that owns basically all these James Bond-related trademarks. In January, we had the leak with the achievements for an apparent remaster, and 2022 marks the 60th anniversary of the James Bond franchise. So the question is out there again. Will a remake actually happen? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, I joked about where there's smoke, there's fire, just with the initiative thing. And I think that's probably true of the GoldenEye thing. I think, we probably see it. It probably finally comes out. We've heard, there's been rumors of this thing forever. And footage back from the 360, I think it was. I think we finally see it. The only thing I would say, like, this is going to be a great nostalgic trip. If it does come out, I'll probably buy it. I'll probably play through it and enjoy it. But as I always caution people with these classic games that we grew up with, that we have such fond memories of, especially early 3D games, be careful what you wish for, because this game, when you play it today, is not, from a design perspective, is not what you expect of a modern game. I sat my son down to play Perfect Dark multiplayer like 3-4 years ago, just for fun. We hooked up the N64, turned it on. We didn't last 10 minutes. It was like this. Terrible.
Yeah, I did that with GoldenEye, actually. I wanted to play that again. And it's not just the level designs and everything, the controls, they feel
Terrible.
so terrible and everything. I put up a poll in chat. Let us know, what do you think? Will we see a Goldeneye remaster or remake this year? I want to hear your speculations as well, guys, in chat. And yeah, but I'm with you. I would love to have a proper remake. Yeah, if you really remake that game with modern days controls, maybe change a few things in the way how they set up the levels and everything.
Yes.
I would be down for this.
Yeah, me too.
Get the Mafia treating. Yeah, I don't know whether you played the Mafia remake. That was fantastic.
It was good. Very good.
Exactly, and I want this kind of treatment. Just an increase in resolution or frame rates would probably not do it. I'm with you there. These early 3D games, they sometimes don't age that well.
No. Have you gone back at any time recently and tried to play a PS1 game? Like, oof.
Yeah, I actually did that. I don't have my PS1 anymore. For some reason, in my early 20s, I was young and needed the money, and I sold all my consoles I had at that point in time. And to this day, I regret this. But a friend of mine still has his PlayStation 1, and when the Tony Hawk remaster came out last year, we actually tried to play the original one. That was unplayable. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, and the chat, let us see here what the chat says. We have already a couple of votes in. 55% say think we will see this year. Others 45% say no, we won't see this. Yeah, it could be a great like a surprise drop at the showcase or whatever we will have in June, July, whenever. That would be a cool thing. So I'm just gonna close this poll for now and want to move over to while we are at showcase things. I want to talk with you a little bit about third party showcases in 2022.
Okay.
Of course, we will get later a state of play, an entire state of play organized by Sony for a third-party game, Hogwarts Legacy. Interesting. I thought that was really interesting that they really make a dedicated showcase or show for one third-party game. Then we had the news this week that EA is not having their EA Play Live event this year.
Right.
So that got me thinking. When we remember the classic E3s, what third-party events did we have? We had Bethesda. Obviously, that's gone now. Yeah, we have of course EA. So they have been they actually moved out of E3 a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago.
Quite a few,
but they always had they had that event during E3 week. So if you don't attend there, it was the same. So
I went to it in 2018, 2019. So it's been at least and they didn't have it the past 2 years, or this year and last year. So it's been at least 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So the only other one that came to mind that is probably the Ubisoft showcase that is left, and we know how those went over the last 2 years. So what do you think? Will third-party developers move away from having their own bigger showcases at an E3 or something similar and make more these state-of-play things like we get later, that they partner with one of the bigger other publishers or platform holders, or have their own events like they had last year from Square Enix with the Guardians of the Galaxy reveal, where they had that 20-minute show piece for Guardians. What do you think? Where will the industry go there?
Yeah, it's weird, man. They don't seem to know what the hell they're doing, do they?
That is a great summary. That is a great summary.
It's very strange, especially I think to us as we sit here being the consumers of these shows, because we're pretty explicit about what we expect out of these shows,
Yeah.
right? Like it's very clear when there's a good. We just talked about Xboxes last year,
Yeah.
and many of us have been pretty critical of Xbox in the past, and of like you're not doing what we really want of an E3 style show. And last year they just crushed it. It was awesome. That's what I want and expect from a big publisher show. But my point being is like you see all the fans saying this. You see all the sites doing the media coverage of the shows, whether they're good or bad. Like it's very strange to me that there's such a disconnect between the people managing, producing these shows at these third-party publishers
Yeah.
and what fans actually want, because it's not even that. It doesn't even seem that complicated. Not
Yeah.
that creating the show, it takes a ton of time and work and effort. I understand that, but like the format is pretty clear as to what people like. So it's very strange to just see these companies still not get it, generally speaking.
Mhm.
Ubisoft is very. I think Ubisoft generally does an okay show if you like their content. There's
Yeah.
people that kind of like one or two games from them, and so a whole show about their entire catalog is usually pretty boring. Square Enix is they're all over the damn place. I don't know what Square Enix is doing from one moment to the next, honestly. And I think Xbox will have a great show. I presume that Sony and PlayStation are going to have a big show. But I guess your original question is, do we still see these shows from the companies, or do they start to partner with bigger companies? I think to your point, we get a handful. If EA is one of the biggest publishers in the world, I think
Yeah.
one of the top three, and if they're not doing a show, that's kind of crazy to begin with. It's like, what are you guys doing over there, first of all? And then with Activision, they've almost all their studios are Call of Duty at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
And Blizzard is another company where they have thousands and thousands of employees and huge IPs,
Yeah.
but they don't seem to manage them very well either. So in terms of showcasing and getting,
Yes.
for the fans. So it's very confusing.
Yes, it is.
I don't really know what to expect anymore. I don't even have a guess as to what we're going to get this summer. I really don't.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it's not that far away. I mean, we are
No,
talking here about 3 months, yeah, and
they would
usually
pretty much have to
E3,
be almost done, like the
yeah,
design of the show by now, because they would do
exactly.
test runs by April.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and you have to get all the layout for the show, everything together, and yeah, it's weird. EA said that they have a lot of stuff to announce for this year, and that they will talk about each of these games when the time is right. It kind of sounded to me like they are giving these games individual shows, maybe smaller events like, oh, tomorrow we are going to reveal the new Jedi Fallen Order, and we have a 20-minute show, something like that. Maybe they all partner or send us things into events from Jeff Keighley or Gamescom. Maybe they move over there, since E3 really isn't doing anything. That could also happen, because we know that these shows will actually take place. The Summer Game Fest from Jeff Keighley is going to go live in June, and Gamescom has announced that they will do actually an on-site event this year again.
Excellent.
So yes, I have to check with my wife still if I can go, because it is in the middle of the summer break from our kids, and actually the family vacation was planned in that week. So I have to kind of move things around there. But it would be, I would be really. It would be sad if I missed this after 2 years not being there. So yeah, we shall see. I just think it's weird if we look at the third-party release schedule this year. We have so many big games coming out. Of course, we have all these Warner Brother games like Hogwarts Legacy, Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad is coming out. Yeah, like you said, Activision has its yearly Call of Duty, and EA has, of course, their things coming out. There's so much content from third-party developers coming, and we have no idea when we will see those games or when they will release. It's kind of strange to me.
I'm with you. I don't know if it's because of COVID and kind of the change in how these a lot of these games are being developed nowadays. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're just much more cautious, right, around showing bad footage, early footage, or an early release date. That's
Yeah.
what it kind of feels like. And still, some companies are doing that and then moving it. But I think generally speaking, they're a little more cautious in that sense. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think like, we talked about like a 20-minute show for a AAA game. And I think those can be a lot of fun if the
Mhm.
game warrants it, of course. We're talking about big games. But there's still no reason, in my opinion, why you don't do something like Xbox does or PlayStation has in the past, or
Yes.
we've seen
I
in the
mean, I mean, PlayStation has done a great event last year too. It was, when was it? In September or October? It was a
a
little bit
little later.
later in
Yeah,
the year.
yeah,
Yeah, but they have announced the Wolverine game, Spider-Man 2. They've shown God of War gameplay that was actually not a bad showcase last year.
very true, very true. And
Yeah.
that's the point, right? It's like you don't have to do deep dives during these shows. You're
No.
just there to show the catalog that's coming to your platform and to get fans hyped.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's kind
Absolutely.
of a fun moment for those companies. I don't see what. I know this probably sounds arrogant sitting here from my desk, but I don't see why that is so challenging to do. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I'm with you, because like you said, the format is clear. Everyone should know what gamers like and what kind of format in showcases they like. And then we still get some weird stuff from Square or Ubisoft and stuff. Yeah. So we shall see. Ubisoft is bringing out the Avatar game this year. Yeah, another big third-party game
yeah,
coming
that's been in development forever.
forever. And
Yeah,
of course, it makes sense to release that along with the movie. So
yeah.
yeah, man, I
Which is also been in development forever.
yeah, true, true that. I want to move over to the last news piece of the week, and that is actually tech related. And I always like to talk tech with you.
Of course. Yeah.
And that is that the direct storage API
Yes.
that is used and was also in the Xbox Series consoles is now available on PC. They have announced that actually last year that it is coming and is now fully available, and it's highly recommended to use it under Windows 11 because of the DirectX 12 Ultimate support.
Yeah.
So that means basically, you could phrase it simple, PC is getting the Xbox tech for how to use and leverage SSDs in the system.
Correct. Yeah.
What do you make of this? You think this is a good thing?
Yeah.
Is this?
Yeah.
I think so too, and I have a very particular reason for it, but I want to hear your thoughts
Okay.
first. So.
Yeah. So funny enough, so there's a guy that writes for Season Gaming named Carl Dwyer. He's in the tech
Yeah,
industry.
he's awesome.
He's incredibly knowledgeable. I mean, puts most, well, not most people on Twitter, 99.9% of people on Twitter to shame in kind of tech knowledge. So we actually started a show recently called For the Record, where he and I sit down to discuss things like this, to basically break down the real details of what it means.
Yeah.
You see a lot of nonsense online, right? Direct storage is one we actually him and I talked about a few weeks ago, and I'm not as well educated as him on it, but he pointed out how much of a benefit this is. And the key point here, as you said, is that DirectX 12 Ultimate is this suite of tools basically that encompasses a number of things that will really take what we're referring to as next gen game development to the next level. And the thing is that people were misunderstanding that Jesus, I can't speak today, Arch. DirectX 12 Ultimate was like, plug and play. Here it is. It's ready to go. And it's like, no, there's individual tool sets here. There's individual functions. And so every time we get another piece like direct storage, it's going to make things better for developers to better utilize the modern system. So the fact that Xbox development is so in tune with PC development, because to them, it doesn't matter where you game, this is going to make it easier for developers to really capitalize on storage solutions, as you said, and really kind of take advantage of, some of the things coinciding with like data asset streaming, utilizing the SSDs to their full potential, etc. So this is exciting because whether you play on PC or Xbox, this will have some downstream effect, positive effect for you.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing that enables developers to maximize, the tools that we're benefiting from.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When I read this, just for everyone to bring it to the same baseline, what is it actually? It is basically the way how the SSD is addressed and how decompression from the SSD works. So your data isn't stored on an SSD. Just in a raw format. It is always compressed, and of course you have to decompress. And the direct storage API basically combines this decompression and the way how you address it and how you load or can load data from the SSD into your actual memory pool, the RAM, and that really speeds up a lot of things. They Depending on the use case, you can get an apparently an increase in loading speed. Or let me rephrase that. It's not loading speed, in addressing speed of the memory pool of 2.4 faster than if you don't use direct storage. So this is a great thing. The reason why I'm particularly excited though is Xbox has the direct storage API from the very beginning in their consoles. Series X and S are using this mechanic, and we have heard a lot of talk about the Series S, especially holding game development back. And I've said this so many times that the Series S isn't holding anything back. It's always the lowest common denominator. And in this case, this was always the PC, because the minimum specs of your game on PC is what holds your game development back. If you have a game that doesn't have as a minimum requirement, for instance, an SSD, yeah, you can't use the potential of an SSD in a game, in your game design. That is what holds game development back. And the lowest common denominator was for a long time now the PC. Now with this, the PC gets actually a significant upgrade in how they can use SSDs, and I do have the hope that with that we will also see a lot of games on PC that now will require an SSD as minimum spec. Because that would actually allow us to give us new kind of world designs, yeah, where you don't have that elevator drive for like 2 minutes, because there's still systems out there that have a regular HD in there, especially on the PC side of things. So yeah, that's why I was so excited to hear this week. It's out now for all developers to use. Great stuff coming, and I do hope we will see some of this potential in the near future, because we have a lot of current gen only games coming out this year. Actually, games like Starfield that we talked
Yes.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
current gen only games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see that. All right, Ains, and with that, I want to move over to a part of the show that I like to call the community questions. So, and I have to briefly change the gameplay again because we ran out of Shredder's gameplay. Let's go back to Elden Ring here. So there we go. All right. Yeah, the community question is the part of the show where people can write in each and every week on Twitter or YouTube community questions. So you can be part of the show even though you're not watching live. And as always, I get a lot of fantastic questions. We can't answer them all. That would simply blow the show up. But I want to say a big thank you for everyone that wrote in some questions, because there were a couple of really good ones. I want to start with Ninja Scroll 30. He writes in, with the amount of dollars that Rockstar has made from GTA and just GTA's 5 sales, is the recent next-gen patch underwhelming, and the ongoing poorly supported Red Dead Redemption Online 2, have they gone down in game developers' regards? So... What do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, that's purely opinion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so Rockstar really was run, as far as we know, again, right, by the two brothers.
Yeah.
Um, and if I'm blanking on their name, I apologize. Someone can tell me in chat. But one of them left, right, in 2014, 15, 16, somewhere along that way. And the concern at the time was that he led a lot of the development for a lot of their key projects, right? He kind of structured it and organized it. I'm going off of
Mhm.
memory here. Please, anyone, feel free to correct me. Now, here we are 6 years later, 7 years later, and we seem to be in a place where Rockstar, it's a legendary studio. When they do release a game, it basically stops the gaming industry, right? But they're not releasing anything.
Yeah.
And they haven't been. You know, Red Dead 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's a masterpiece. But as we sit here today, it's 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And Grand Theft Auto 5, was now 9 years ago. And it's just,
2013, yeah.
yeah, it's wild to think that a studio that has so much money, clearly they make billions, and that has so much talent is not producing any games.
Yeah.
It's there's definitely something wrong from a management standpoint. Even if Grand Theft Auto 6 was to come out next year and be a masterpiece, which it probably will be a masterpiece whenever it releases, it still doesn't really explain a 10-year dev cycle, and why no other games are being made. So in my opinion, I think Rockstar definitely has some issues. I cherish them as a developer. They've made some absolutely incredible genre-changing
Yeah.
games, but it's bizarre that they don't have better, seemingly, management around the way they structure releases.
I couldn't have said it better. No, I fully agree here because, like you said, if you have not just the money, but also the size and the amount of developers available,
Yeah,
you
they're
gotta ask
huge.
the question. Yeah, you gotta ask the question: what are they all doing right now? Right? Uh, it's yeah, it's I really don't get it, but it is what it is. Felipe Garcia writes in a question. That is a good one. Oh no, pardon me, that wasn't Felipe Garcia. We come to your question later. This one is from Richard Freudel. He is actually a German guy. He invited me to an interview a couple of months ago. It was probably the first time I did gaming related content in German. That was
Oh, cool.
yeah, that was a absolute new experience for me. Okay, he asks, what is the most expensive or best console accessory that you own? Is it a special controller or a statue, or do you maybe have some wheels, nunchucks, or anything? Now I know you have an entire basement full of that stuff. What's your favorite?
Oh my gosh. You might want to give me 10 minutes to think about this one. You can see me looking around the room. So I joked with someone the other day. So my desk is, you can see I'm against the wall here, but this is an
Mhm.
alcove, right?
Yeah.
And just in my view from here behind the camera are 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, are 15, 16, 17 statues.
All right.
So when I say statues, I don't mean collector's edition. I mean,
Mhm.
big statues. So I would have to say it's probably one of those. I don't know what my favorite statue is. I don't think I really have one. Um, so if you missed it last week, I got the new God of War statue from Prime One Studio. It's actually sitting right there. It is about 60 pounds, and it is absolutely massive. It's Kratos and Atreus.
Oh.
So it is a really, really impressive piece, even as I sit here looking at it. But yeah, this is hard, man. I'd have to rattle off a number of things. I don't. The weird thing is, as much stuff as I own, I don't think there's one thing that just stands out as like that thing I cherish.
Mhm.
Um, all right, I'll give you one.
Okay.
So on the wall right there is my 1-to-1 scale Lancer from Gears of War.
Oh.
Um, they made multiple versions of it, but that one that's hanging on the wall was the very first one they released when Gears 2 released, and you
Mhm.
could only get it in the US anyway from Amazon as part of a pre-order deal. So there's very few of them that were ever made.
Okay.
And so you can find different replicas of it, more modern ones that have the orange tip and these other things. But that one actually has the full chainsaw effect. It doesn't look fake. It doesn't have an orange tip. It's got blood all
Mhm.
over it. And it's very rare to find that original one.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
So
one.
I'll say that.
So, hey, for me, it's I don't have that many statues. Definitely not. I wouldn't have the space for it, to be honest. I have one thing that is just nostalgic to me, and that is I have an original copy of Secret of Evermore. That's one of my
Mm,
all-time favorite games. I still play that game once a year, but not the copy I'm talking about because that is still in mint condition, and it is actually signed by the by one of the lead story writers who is actually a German guy. And I met him once and he signed me that copy and it is in mint condition and on the outer foil. He signed it and this is the one I have. And that's just,
that's
I
awesome.
love that. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, those type of kind of personal things are really cool.
Yes.
You did remind me. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm as an older guy. Phantasy Star is one of my favorite nostalgic RPGs on the Sega Master System, the original Phantasy
Mm.
Star, and I still have my original copy on the shelf right back there from when I was 10 years old.
Oh,
It still has
nice.
the battery backup in it with game saves. They probably don't work anymore, but I've had that for 33 years. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. This nostalgia stuff that we could talk about for hours.
Sure. Yes.
I
Yes.
have an OG Game Boy game called Wizards and Demons.
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also a game because when my grandma was really sick for a long time, and she lived like an hour away from us, and my mother and I we drove basically, yeah, like 5 times a week to my grandma, taking care of her a little bit,
Sure.
and I was playing that in the car every day for like a year or so, and that's
Wow.
why I this is one of the very rare games that I didn't sell in my early 20s because I couldn't do it. So yeah, let me ask you another question coming in from Felipe Garcia. It's a little bit also tech related. When it comes to graphics, what is the potential of this generation, and where's the upper limit? Will we see 4K 60 games to be the standard for PS5 and Series X? Will it be 4K 120? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think that there's quite a few people that wonder about this
Yeah.
because if you're not really, as you know, right, if you're not really into the tech space and you look at what's typically advertised for games, it's always a resolution and a frame rate, right? And what I try to say whenever I can, so I'll say it again right now, is resolution. Well, frame rate's different, but resolution, generally speaking, can be very misleading
Mhm.
because the resolution is only that they display on Twitter and advertising in games and videos is only
Yeah.
the display resolution, right? It doesn't take into account anything going into the assets on the screen, texture quality, lighting, and there's a whole ton of other things that go into
Yeah.
producing an on-screen image than just the resolution. So it's kind of hard to say could it top 4K 120, et cetera. I mean, right now Halo Infinite I play in 4K 120 right now on my Series X,
Mm.
but it's a 4K display resolution, right? The effects,
Mhm.
the texture, shadowing, lighting, all that are different than if I was playing on, say, an Ultra PC setting, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what the upper limit is. I certainly can tell you we haven't hit it yet. It kind of goes back a little bit to what we were talking about with the whole DirectX Ultimate suite, right?
Mhm.
Is there's other things within that suite we didn't touch on, such as like
Yeah.
asset streaming, that are
Yeah.
going to help developers and games produce a higher quality image overall.
Yeah.
Real 5, new engine, which has some really cool tech in it, that's going to help with
Yeah.
those things as well. So I think over the next couple of years, we're going to start to see it's going to be a longer tail, I think, where it wasn't like we jumped to 360 and suddenly you have 720p HD gears and you
Yeah.
see it right away, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that games like Gears 5 right now are a great demonstration of kind of some of the more advanced tech. But when Gear 6 comes and takes full advantage of Unreal 5 and modern development, things like we've touched on already, you're
Yeah.
going to see that next jump. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard to just throw a resolution and a frame rate at a target. It's much more complex than that.
It definitely is. It doesn't tell you anything about how good a game actually looks,
No.
but it is an easy thing to compare, and that's why people, of course, try to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have more teraflops than you do, or stuff like that. Doesn't tell you anything if your
Oh,
system is actually more performant or not. But it's an easy number to compare.
yeah.
Um, Let me put it this way: I do hope that we move away from 60 FPS being the performance mode. I think this should be the standard, and the performance mode would be the 120 frames
I agree with you.
mode. But what I truly hope is that we don't have a discussion about 4K or 60 FPS anymore, because by the end of this generation, I do hope that things like variable refresh rate becomes a standard on most TV manufacturers, and people really don't have to care if a game can actually run at 50, 60, or 70 frames. It would change a lot. I also think the pure comparison of or yeah, target for high resolutions like 4K is a waste of resources, because you can do much more with the computational power than get 4K pixels rendered. So I hope we see on the upscaling side of things a lot of things. I would, like you said, we haven't seen anything uh, in terms of many of the big features that these new consoles can do. One thing that I always mention is mesh shaders. This is really a potential for real true next gen graphics, because it will completely change the rendering pipeline that we have in today's games. The pipelines we have today in almost every game, or probably in every game, is something that is actually very old, that was developed 20 years ago, and then you hit a certain wall, and then they added stuff to this pipeline. And if you look in a classic rendering pipeline today, there are so many different things in there, and mesh shaders would just delete that completely and throw in a complete new rendering pipeline. It is a chance to modernize modern day rendering, and I hope we will talk about a bit more about these kind of things than just pure resolution. But like I said earlier, since it's so easy to compare, we will probably still talk about the Digital Foundry comparisons, and who gets a few pixels more or not. Yeah, I want to ask you a question from Andrew Source, also a little bit tech related. What would you like Keystone to be? Have you heard that leak? We talked about it on this show last week. There was a database leak where they had different code names for Xbox consoles. Yeah,
Mhm.
they had Durango in there and all these code names. And there was a new one, and that is the Project Keystone. And so the speculation is out there. What is Project Keystone? Is it going to be a new console? Is it going to be a streaming stick? What do you want it to be?
What do I? Well, yeah, those are two different questions. What do I want it to be, and what do I think it'll be?
Yeah.
You know, I would love for it. I'm always one who wants to just, I prefer to play on console over PC.
Yeah, me too.
It's just, I have a really nice home theater, and that's just how I prefer to play. But I'm one of those few probably that would pay $1,000 or $1,500 US dollars for a console. Just max it out. Put whatever you need to do in it, and just give me the best console.
Yeah.
That's what I would love for it to be. I don't think it's that. So I've written a few times around where Xbox is headed, and I always find it kind of interesting because they are, of the big three, they are the ones that are kind of pushing the technical boundaries and have been more recently. I personally think what we're going to see out of Xbox next is something that is a cheap device that will give you connectivity on nearly any device to access the Xbox ecosystem. They've been driving towards that for a while.
Yeah.
All the pieces are there. If you think of it kind of like a Lego set, right? They've been kind of gathering all the pieces and slowly sticking them together, and now they're coming together to finish the final product. And that is really being able to access Game Pass, your digital library, your profile, your Xbox Live, your friends, etc., anywhere without a console and without a PC. And you can do that, to a degree versus xCloud, but this would be something that would kind of, don't know the word I'm looking for, kind kind of mitigate the need where if bandwidth was necessarily a concern or the device was a concern.
Mm.
This is something that would be more plug and play and take away the need for 100% streaming, just the game itself, So I think it's one of those middle ground devices I think we're going to see out of Xbox between, say, xCloud and the Series S. And I just think that seems to be the next step for them, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. You're probably right that this is highly likely that it could be this. The only other thing by the way, I would also buy that 1,000 euro high-end console. I'd love that. And I still think we will see a mid-gen refresh eventually, but it's probably way too early for that in the gen. The thing, what came to my mind is if it's not a streaming stick, is that it's going to be a slim version of the Series X. And here's why. We are still in that chip shortage situation globally.
Yep.
And the slim has always been the reason for a slim has always been not that we get a smaller console in our homes. That wasn't the intention. The intention was because after a couple of years, you can manufacture the same chip on a significantly smaller die size. And especially now in the world where every inch on a wafer counts a lot more than it used to, it would definitely make sense to have a slim. Same power, same specs like the Series X, typical slim, same specs, but they could manufacture more of those consoles, if you reduce the die size half, you can double the amount of consoles you can manufacture, basically. So I would be surprised if both Sony and Microsoft don't try to bring out a slim as soon as possible because of this chip shortage. So this is the other thing that I could see this Keystone thing turn out to be. So yeah.
It's a good point. It's an interesting time in the industry because of that, right? Like there's so many kind of downstream impacts that are happening because of everything going on. I couldn't imagine being part of the leadership having to work through these issues, with logistics. That'd be a nightmare right now.
I've been totally different industry, obviously, but I have also been in a lot of task forces around global logistics and availability of parts. It is you are facing issues you haven't even thought about. It's crazy right now. It's a crazy world we live in. But man, I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's been a blast having you on. Ainsly, let everyone know where they can find you and what you are working on.
Yeah. So thanks, man. It's always good chatting with you. So thanks for the invite. And anytime. Love chatting with you. So you can find me as Ains or Porsche Power on Twitter. There's not many Ainsleys. I'm easy to find. And then Season Gaming. Everything we do is there. We've done a lot this year. We've kind of come out of the gate firing this year. We started our Patreon back in January. And we're doing unique content for that, kind of a bunch of timed exclusive stuff. I've done some big conversations and interviews, and we're producing more content on the channel than ever, too. So we just recently passed 10,000 subscribers, which was a nice little milestone. And so we do a weekly live show every Sunday morning US time, which is called the Big Cast. As I said, Arch has been on there many times in the past. And we just recently changed our panel there as well. So we're kind of a new panel with some
great addition with Hogue Law.
Yeah. So I think the one nice thing I say about our show now is, when you think about someone like myself who is kind of tech orientated and has covered the industry for a very long time, then we have Travis who writes for IGN, does reviews, he has insights at big companies. And then Hogue is obviously a lawyer. He has his own channel doing legal breakdowns. So there's a lot of insight that we provide on that show. If you like kind of insightful weekly gaming show, please check us out. It would be very appreciated. And other than that, just a lot of new content on Season Gaming, like I said, so you can find that pretty easily. But thank you again.
Absolutely. And you definitely can find all the links again in the show notes here. So that makes it very easy to find the stuff, and I highly recommend it. I love you. I love the Bitcast. I've been a listener since you have been very, very early on. I think it was episode 15 or 20, something in that range, when I started to listen with Bert was still on the show.
That's so
And
back. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's even before Dan even joined us.
yeah,
So that's going back years now. And I,
that's
yeah, I mean, when I first had you on as a guest,
yeah,
is when you were first getting into this stuff, right?
yeah.
Like I think
Yeah, that was
I happened to
very
meet
early in
you
my
there.
channel days. I had like 5 videos up or so, and it was
Yeah.
your first live show. I was the first live guest because up until that point, you had those pre-recorded shows, and the first time you had a YouTube live show, I was the first guest. So
I didn't
thank
remember
you.
that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, see?
episode 99. So and now you're almost in at 200, right?
Yeah,
Very
we're at
soon. So
195 this weekend. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
That's awesome.
really something. Yeah, it's a great show. I still listen each and every week. It's I have like 3 podcasts that I never miss each week, and you're one of the
Oh man, that's
podcast is
awesome.
one of the
Thank you.
because it is, like you said, very insightful show with different opinions, and I like that. Even if I sometimes don't agree with an opinion,
Of course.
that's fine. That's part of the discussion. But it
Yeah.
is always a very well produced show. So definitely recommend to check that out. And I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who has been here with us live today in chat. It's been a fantastic show. You guys, as always, you behave so well. I have now like 3 moderators, and outside of some spam bots, we never had to intervene here anywhere. It's a fantastic community. I want to say a big thank you also for the super chats that came in. And yeah, I have a very interesting video in the making. I hope I will finish it tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be up on the channel on Monday. I haven't seen anyone covering this yet, and I wonder why, because it is tech related and very awesome. So definitely stay tuned for that. Other than that, I hope you all enjoy the Hogwarts Legacy showing later in like 20 minutes or
20
15
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna start. Can't wait to see what that game will be. And if you want to see a live reaction, I will be on the Midweek Mix-Up channel from Wandering Dutch with a short live reaction after that. Other than that, I see you all next week. And I always try to remember everyone to don't forget to game on.